You probably think getting left on red is rough. You might even think getting unceremoniously dropped from the group chat is the lowest a human being can sink. But 40,000 years ago, human beings had a punishment so brutal it makes a blocked number like a warm hug. They could vote you off the fire. An exile from the fire was a slow-motion death sentence. It meant losing the only source of warmth for miles in any direction and being forced into the freezing dark alone. Whether you kept your spot in the light relied almost entirely on your manners. We have this enduring, cartoonish idea of the Ice Age, where the biggest, loudest alpha caveman ruled the group by sheer brute force. The reality is actually much funnier. These early foraging communities operated a lot more like a highly sensitive, strictly governed neighborhood association. Surviving the Ice Age meant sharing an incredibly small space with the exact same people every single day. Whether you lived to see the spring depended on your ability to navigate a sophisticated, entirely unwritten rulebook of communal etiquette. Let us start with the first social blunder that could get you exiled: lacking spatial awareness. Today, you can walk into a room and flop down wherever you want. In the Paleolithic, choosing the wrong place to sit was a deeply offensive act. Take a look at Lazaret Cave in modern-day France. Roughly 170,000 years ago, the humans living here meticulously planned their domestic spaces. They treated the rocky interior as a precision-engineered living space, starting with the exact placement of the fire. This animated heat map diagram shows exactly how they engineered the room. By placing the hearth perfectly in the center, they created distinct smoke zones. Up close, you have the highly toxic red and yellow zones, unusable spaces where you would be weeping and hacking within minutes. But further back, the smoke drafts away, creating a pristine, highly coveted blue zone. Look at how the rest of the layout was organized on this same floor plan. Archaeologists found that the entire cave was explicitly zoned by function. There were specific boundaries for butchering, drying meat, and sleeping. Imagine being the one relative who routinely decides to take a nap right in the middle of the meat drying corner, or who blocks the butchering path. Doing this repeatedly meant you were disrupting the literal physical architecture keeping everyone alive. You became a furniture placement problem, and the group would solve that problem by removing you. Earning a seat in the good part of the cave brings us to the second and arguably most dangerous rule: never, ever brag about a massive kill. Do not strut and do not act like a hero. We know how strictly this was enforced thanks to modern anthropologists. Richard Lee spent time living with the Kung people of the Kalahari, a community whose communal, circular way of life offers a brilliant window into how ancient foraging groups managed peace. Lee wanted to thank the community for their hospitality, so he bought the biggest, fattest ox he could find for a feast. He expected gasps of delight. Instead, the community looked at this mountain of meat and relentlessly mocked it. They complained it was a sad bag of bones and joked that they would all starve. Lee was absolutely crushed. What Lee experienced is a well-documented anthropological practice called insulting the meat. It is a highly intentional social tool known as a leveling mechanism. The logic is beautifully simple. When you present a massive gift with an air of arrogance, you attach an invisible price tag to it. You are telling the community that they owe you. To neutralize that debt and flatten the hunter's ego, the community ruthlessly teases the giver. This mockery was pure maintenance. By forcing their best providers to stay humble, the group ensured that no single indispensable hero could ever accumulate enough social leverage to turn around and dictate the terms of survival to everyone else. Once you have survived the day's hunt without acting like a megalomaniac, you face the third rule. You have to know exactly what you are permitted to talk about after the sun goes down. This chart breaks down the topics of daytime conversations based on research by Polly Wiesner. Notice how the vast majority of talk while the sun is up functions essentially as a team meeting. It is almost entirely logistics, chores, complaining, and gossip. But watch what happens to the chart the moment the only light is coming from the flames. The complaints evaporate. Around the evening fire, roughly 80% of all conversation pivots directly into enchanting storytelling. The nighttime fire served as the social internet of the Paleolithic. It was the sacred space used to enchant the exhausted group and pass down tribal history and cultural values. Bringing daytime whining to the night fire disrupted that entire format. It ruined the vibe, and people noticed. These 3 rules show us a deeper pattern. Managing smoke zones kept the group breathing, mocking the hunters kept the group flat, and telling stories at night kept the group connected. When we view them together, we see that every rule of Paleolithic etiquette functioned as a specific survival protocol. Politeness was the user interface for high-level survival software. This software is why exile was so final. Being walked away from the hearth meant being deleted from the group's collective memory. Tribal history and kinship only existed in the stories told around those flames. Leaving the fire meant you no longer existed in the group's record of itself. We like to think we have evolved far past these constraints. Our fires now have Wi-Fi, but the core mechanics of our social circles have barely moved an inch. The arrogant braggart still empties the room, and the person who brings endless complaints to a good evening still finds themselves mysteriously excluded from the next group chat. For 40,000 years, humanity has run on a very simple code. We reward the humble, the generous, and the self-aware. We punish anyone who threatens the cohesion of the circle. We are all, at the end of the day, just trying to be someone the group wants to keep warm.